Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's our session 3 from the Omnichannel Futures Retail Bulletin. Our first return into 2022, and we've had a brilliant morning so far of events, and delighted to have you back with us. If you've just joined us again, welcome back. If you've joined us for the first time today, you're also very welcome. And if you have missed any of this morning's content, it's all going to be available for you online in the usual places, LinkedIn and YouTube, so you can catch up with any of the content you have missed. This session will also be recorded, so if you want to dip back into any compelling content that you want to revisit, you'll be able to do that as well. All of today will be available online for you to see. We're really happy to be back. We've got a really full agenda, not just today, but for the whole year ahead, actually. So do check out the Retail Bulletin website for all of the events that are coming up over 2022. And really excitingly, you would have already heard me talk about this if you've been with us before today, but we're going live, a real live conference in November, 8th and 9th of November. Put them in your diary. It's a 2-day conference with an overnight and a bit of a party in the middle, because the TRB, the Retail Bulletin, is turning no less than 20. So 2 decades of the Retail Bulletin has to be celebrated, and we intend to do so in style. So 8th and 9th of November at the Birmingham NEC. So it's going to be great, and we're really looking forward to hopefully seeing many of you there and having some fun in the evening as well. You remember conferences where you stand with real people and drink tea and coffee and talk about things and then have a beer afterwards in a real place where you can actually touch and see people in 3D? It's coming back, and we're very excited about that, as you can probably tell. Right, let's get on with today's session, and it's session number 3, In-Store Digital Innovation, creating a fully connected experiential store of the future. So how's that for a headline to unpack over the next 45 minutes or so? Well, unpack it we will, and these are the people that are going to help me do it, and I'm going to ask them if they would right now to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Dragorad, who's actually our sponsor for the event. Thank you to you and Eyezon as well. Tell us about you.
Thank you very much, Darren. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the opportunity to present myself first. So I'll try to be brief. My professional background is strategic marketing, brand building, and communication strategies. So have a background in this for over 17, 18 years almost, working for large communication groups, international communication groups in Eastern Europe, WPP, Publicis Group, and whatnot, with key global accounts. But for this purpose, I think that the experience and some contribution I may have for this discussion is my background for the last 3 years. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Eyezon, which is the company that works in customer experience, digital customer experience building, and focuses around end-to-end solution for live video commerce, from one-to-one to broadcasts, basically touchpoint agnostic in any channel, starting with the stores and ending with the advertising. So this is what we do. We connect online audience using live videos to offline infrastructure of retail businesses, manufacturers, and whatnot.
The perfect fit of what we're talking about today. So great to have you with us, and look forward to talking to you very shortly. Guy, tell us about you.
Thank you, Darren. So Guy here. I've been at the moment head of stores at Steen. So it's a Danish bakery with 30 years of heritage over in Denmark, and been over here in the UK since 2016. My career has been through food and beverage and retail, and always at the coalface with that team and customer interaction, which is always the important part for me. So really pleased to be here and talking about how we engage our teams and think about our physical stores when we're talking about a blended sales channel.
Great. Well, it's great to have you with us. And as I was saying to you when I met you yesterday, love your stores and your products as well. So yeah, great to have you with us. Emma, tell us about you.
Thanks, Darren. Hi, everyone. I'm Emma, the Senior Global Creative and Branding Manager at Astrid and Miyu. So we're a jewellery brand that started as a digitally native brand back in 2012, and we've really led the way in with experiential retail in the jewellery industry for the past 5 years, rapidly growing to 9 UK locations and growing regionally and internationally over this year. So I've spent the past 4 years working to build Astrid and Miyu's online and in-store branding and experience from our startup phase into our scale-up phase where we are now.
That's an exciting phase to be in as well, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for being with us as well, and I'm sure you'll be sharing some great insight with us. And then Edda, thank you for joining us. Tell us about you.
Hi, everyone. Last but not least, I hope.
Absolutely.
Lovely to join you again. I'm the Director of Customer and Retailing Transformation at BYKO, which is a leading hardware and home improvement retailer in Iceland. My role is leading the organization's transformation from multi to omnichannel retailing. So a big task and a lot of exciting projects that we're working on. I have a PhD in omnichannel transformation. And I was looking at distinct capabilities that retailers need to develop in order to transform to omnichannel. So that comes in handy in my current role. But my passion is very much bridging that gap between that academic research that we have and then, the industry and how it can be made useful. So I will be a little bit on the theoretical side, but hopefully useful as well.
Good stuff, and it's great to have you with us. Well, that is our stellar lineup, as you can see. So we're going to have plenty to talk about over this so-called session 3 that we're about to run. Do remember, please, audience, we love you to get involved. This is your webinar, and you need to get from it what you need to get from it. So if you've got a burning question for either of the panelists or just a general panel question, or you want to pick on one of them, let us know. So wherever you're on your screen, somewhere there will be a Q&A button. It tends to vary on what device you're using, but use that Q&A button or the chat function as well. And I will monitor that, and I'll make sure and promise you as your moderator that every single question that gets asked will be answered. Okay, so nobody leaves any stone unturned for you. Let's kick off. Enjoy the session, and anything you need, just communicate with me via Q&A. So Dragorad, as our kick-off, please, and our sponsor, I'm going to start with you, if I may. What is the secret formula or the winning formula for owning a unique customer experience online?
Okay, yeah. I would say two things first as a disclaimer. So I wouldn't say it's secret. I think it's public for many hundreds of years of existence of retail. And I would say that when we're speaking about formulas, we have to keep in mind that retail business, and any business for that matter, is as successful in retention and building long-term relationship with their customers as it is unique, and as it creates unique and ownable experiences. So formula would be the word that we would casually use, but I would probably, in brief explanation, I would use the word probably approach. Traditionally, customer experience, we use it also in our company as a kind of a key thoughts in everything we do, from product to services, is that the whole is more than the sum of its parts. It's an ancient Greek wisdom. It's a paraphrase of Aristotle. It's kind of a very simple and understandable kind of Captain Obvious source. When you're building customer experience, you are starting with a general understanding, your own unique understanding, philosophy, vision, and mission of what type of experience you want to use before you engage your customers in tactical work with them. And traditionally, this was meaning before online and digital transformation burst, meant 4P, 5P, 6P, orchestrating all of these Ps for the maximum retention and loyalty, because this is what brick and mortar business eventually was. You're placing the store on the spot. You understand fully for decades in advance what kind of traffic you will get to that offline spot, so it's not a traffic chase. And you're focusing on building long-term retention and loyalty. Customer experience today is a very different thing, partially because of because online happened, okay, yeah, but mostly because when we started transition to online a couple of decades ago as consumers and then as businesses, we started vice versa. We started first advertising online, storytelling online, promoting offline businesses online, and then started actually be very systemic in the way that we sell online. In traditional customer experience paradigm, it was vice versa. First we were selling, and then we had in 20th century a burst of advertising in offline media. So understanding that, I would say three kind of pillar thoughts to drive whatever we do and what we see and how we see our clients' businesses. And that's not necessarily correct, right? But nevertheless, first, if the customer experience is a storytelling experience, what you are building actually, eventually, the bottom point, you are building the story in your own head and in your customer's head that tells everything, all significant things to oneself or to other people about actually your relationship with the brand and the retail that you're interacting with. Having this in mind, what changed significantly, and we didn't notice it when we started digital transformation, being driven by inertia of traditional media and traditional commerce, is that this thing immediately became very much data focused and data driven, because we had a lot of interesting media instruments from our previous traditional marketing strategies, and we had a whole lot of new data online. So we focused it on data rather than on insights. Obviously, insights are derived from data, but going into big data and using data-driven strategies and data-driven focus, we kind of forgot for almost a decade to derive actionable insights and to learn how to derive actionable insights in real time faster, because this is the faster medium. Second thing is that we kind of tend to look at it as the engineering process, right? Because why? Because in 20th century, before online and early 21st century, we understood that everything is technology. Creative storytelling and creative advertising gradually from the former popular art became kind of an engineering process. It's kind of a craft, right? That you could measure, that you could plan, that you could, Lego build. So we transited this into the online medium, while we completely forgot about creative storytelling. So now we know that our ads work, and we know if they work immediately, and if they convert to sales and in repurchase and whatnot. But we have a very vague idea why they work. We know for whom they work, and that they work or they don't work. We haven't got slightest idea, and we don't have enough time because of the pace to focus on this. So we're very poorly insight driven. That's the first thing. Focusing on insights, actionable insights, real-time insights is the main thing. Second thing is focusing on customer experience being built as a story, being a new storytelling space in Omnichannel all over the place. It's about creative storytelling. We don't have creative storytellers. We have data scientists. We have great engineers. We have great analytics. We don't have creative storytellers in customer experience. And the third thing, and the most important from our point of view as a business, part of that formula is that all of this customer experience built, rebuilt, tracking, analysis, and reactions has to be managed live versus being curated with humans or AI. What we tend to do now when we create and use all of these new digital transformation instruments, we tend to look at them immediately from the point of view of scalability. So I always got 3 years ago with live videos, my main question was always, is it scalable? And my answer was no. It's not currently scalable. No, it's not. And we were not in the broadcast business. We were in one-on-one lives. And getting to the point here is that if we look into the e-commerce and customer experience omni-channel today as the main challenges within it, we understand that it's very similar to 20th century paradigm of 60s and 70s when creative advertising and storytelling came in. First, it was not about scalability, but those who actually used video advertising in all of the creative storytelling formats of 20th century early on, they built a retention and loyalty and actually won the market in 20th century with zero scalable instruments. In terms of sales, there was no direct connection and impact, measurable impact at that stage in 20th century to measure and say, yeah, this brings sales. We would see a lot of sales, and we would know that it's because of the video ad, but you couldn't really control it. What we have right now, we have a lot of ways to measure, but what we don't have, and what we completely forgot, is to pass through the insight-driven creative storytelling stage of approach to building customer experience, and especially in a multitude of channels, in a very different touch points, and being very agnostic about the media and about the data, and being very much focused on what actually always was driving the market, which was a great story and great story to tell for your customer.
Great, thank you, sir. I'm going to move on to your next panelist, if I may, but thank you for that very compelling and detailed opening as well. Guy, coming over to you. Food and bev retail, you know, the food and bev world, obviously operationally challenging, labor intensive, all of those things are happening in the background. How do you then get the team engaged to really understand their role, you know, and what the part they play is in delivering in those blended channels?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's actually continuing on what Dragorad said. So he's spoken about storytelling, and I think that it's so fundamental for our teams in our stores across F&B and across retailing, and telling them the story and telling them the why. Why is it important that we have a blended sales channel? What's the importance of being able to reach out to different customers that have potentially never been in a physical store, but now can access us through online, through aggregators? So it's always coming back to what is that why? Why is this important? And engaging them around the future and sustainability of that importance. And then when you get that hearts and minds piece, it's then about making it every day. And whilst that may have to be mundane, boring every day, that's the bit that makes it real. And I always, with my team, I use Boots as an example. You would never walk into Boots and not be spoken about an Advantage card, ever. It happens every single time. And whilst that may be whilst it may be mundane, you know that they are talking about a different channel to interact with Boots. So it's about every single day, and some studies around 66 days now to make a habit. So it's not going to happen overnight. So again, it's going back to that why. It's about making it mundane. It's about making it happen every single day, and the importance behind that starts to engage the teams around doing it with our customers every single day. Then physically, when you get into the store, so you've engaged the hearts and minds of the teams, you then physically get into the store. It's around how do you deploy and how do you position it? So historically, you would have never opened a store without deploying somebody on a till. You wouldn't do that. And again, some of our stores have got 20-30% of sales coming through a different channel. So we need to think about that. We need to deploy for that. It's actually putting it in a rota. It's actually planning for that. And then it's about the positioning of where that comes from. So I had an unfortunate experience at the weekend where I did a click and collect, walked into a store. I go to the far back right-hand side next to some cardboard, and that's where I'm picking up my click and collect. Is that the experience that as a business you want to give to that customer that's experienced you online, come to collect into your physical store? Actually, there's an opportunity to add an additional sale or interact in a different way. But now I've been serviced and I've gone to the back right-hand side in some dodgy area. So again, it's about thinking about what is the actual positioning of that interaction in the store, what is the deployment in that, and really being clear about the signage and segmentation. So it's easy for the team in store to know where and when, and it's not adding any additional burden on the actual in-store presence, and it's making it really simple for the customer. So I think it's always about the storytelling why. Then it's about making it every single day, just habitual. It has to happen every single day. And then it's about how do you deploy for it, so that it's equal importance between click and collect, aggregators, as well as the in-store footprint. And then it's about how do you segment to make sure that the interaction is as important for in-store customers as it is for online customers.
Got it. Thanks, Guy. That's really great insight. Thank you very much. And I'm sure it's given our audience plenty to think about. Don't forget, audience, if you do have questions for anything that you've heard so far, or on anything you've heard so far, or anything else, please do use those Q&A buttons. Emma, coming on to you. High street shopping, you know, there has obviously been tons of readjustment, and certainly during the pandemic and even before that. But should the high street be completely pivoting to only experience-led going forward? What's your thoughts?
It's quite a few things, because I guess like experiential retail, like before the pandemic, was already really leading the way, and those attitudes were changing, where, you know, online shopping has become habitual. It's almost like ties into what Guy was saying before about when he went into the store and he was in the corner by the cardboard. Like, if you get that bad experience, like you're like, oh, should I just have had it delivered to my house then? What was the point of me going all the way to collect it? So there absolutely needs to be a driver for why someone wants to come and take the time to actually physically come into your store and come into your retail space, spend money traveling to get there. You know, and that doesn't have to be, I think when people think experiential retail, you think like all the bells and whistle, Instagrammable moments, social media, like, you know, technology, whatever that is, but that's not really at its core what experiential retail is. It's about having something that's adding value to the customer and adding value to their experience. So, you know, for us, that's a personalized service. We, you know, in the jewelry industry, you can come in, you can buy your earrings, you can buy your necklace. You can also get it engraved right then and there, or you can get your ears pierced or a mini tattoo, or we offer this welded surface. So there's a lot more like memory making is a part of our retail landscape that brings customers in. But at our core, what we have is an incredibly welcoming environment. Like, why would you come and spend extra money at Astrid and Miyu? You know, we're a bit pricier on a tattoo than your local, like, heavily tattooed bearded guy. That might be a bit daunting for our customer. You know, they might, there's a reason why they've come to Astrid and Miyu. So it's about like the experience and what they're getting for that value, you know?
Yeah.
Our brand values are about our community and being so community focused and welcoming, that you're also getting that as part of your service. You're getting your tattoo and you're walking away with the item or the ear piercing, but you're also coming for that whole brand experience. And I think that's like a real way in which we were able to revolutionize like our retail arm of the business. You know, back in 2018 was when we started experimenting with these kind of things. So we were like, right, at this point we had like 2 locations in London, and we're now at 9, which is crazy. And that's only, you know, I think there was a pandemic right in the middle of that as well. That's huge growth. That we were able to be like, right, okay, what can we do to get our customers in? Ear stacking was our like key thing that our customers came for. Great, let's put our marketing team in the store, and because we're a small little nimble team, great, let's do where customers can book online and they can get ear curation sessions. The moment we did that, press, customers, everybody was, oh, do you do ear piercing then? So we were, great, okay, let's try and get that. We don't do it now, but we will do it soon. And within 4 months, we were doing piercing. So it was always listening to our customer and listening to what their wants and needs were and building experiences around that. Because we all, as brands, really understand our customers. That's why we're successful brands. But we have to make sure that, you know, what we're offering them, what we're asking them to do with their time, that they're getting value for it. They're not just coming to your store for the sake of it, because no one's going to do that, not in this world anymore. So yeah, it's really about what the customer wants and what you're offering them.
Thank you for that, Emma. And it's actually a lovely segue over to Edda. And Edda, thank you for waiting so patiently. It's always hard being the last one to speak on the webinar. But talking about this kind of changing role of bricks and mortar, how do you sense the need to change? What's your view on all of this?
Well, this morning, Gracia from Closepats, actually mentioned that retailers need to be aware of the changes in the retail industry and what's happening with customer expectations. And that is exactly what sensing is. In my PhD research, I found that sensing actually requires 2 types of capabilities from retailers. One is identifying the need to change, so we cannot just continue as is, because that's just going to end, you know, go in one direction. And the other is interpreting all the information that you are then receiving. And for each of these 2 types of capabilities, there are many, many different processes that retailers need to have on a continuous basis. So, you know, just to give you a few, it includes, for example, monitoring customer needs and expectations, which sounds easy. Yeah, we will just send them a survey and we know what they need. But no, there are so many different ways of doing that. You need social listening, you have the surveys, you have the customer feedback, you have your service team, you have your employees in store, and you need to collect all of that and make some sense of it and see some trends. And that's just one source of information. And then you need to monitor what your competitors are doing. So what are their propositions online and offline? What are their propositions for delivery and for, click and collect and all of that? And you need to match that to say the least. And then what are the expectations in the whole industry? And then there are things such as industry trends. What's happening out there? AI, is that something for me? What is it that I need to do next? And learning from your retail partners, your strategic partners, your tech partners, whoever you're working with, they're a source of information. And then your employees as well. They're always coming, I get emails every day from our employees saying, why don't we do this, more digital? Why do we not service our customers better in that way? And it's an overflow of information, and that is just for sensing the need to change. And that comes to the identification. A part of the capability is, what do you do with all of that information? You need to interpret it in some way. So what does it mean? How are we going to use it? And where are we going to start? How are we going to prioritize what we do? And this is just for retailers who want to follow and maybe lead in their industry. But if you want to be disruptive, you also have to see the future. And then you have to have innovation hubs or futurologists, like the likes of Nike, and I know John Lewis has had a futurologist. So it's all about placement as well. Where are you going to be? Are you happy with being a follower, or do you want to be disruptive? But at the end of the day, sensing for me is all about getting the basics right. And that's what we are doing at BYKO as a very traditional hardware and DIY retailer. This is our focus at the moment.
I think on that point, from Edda's point about being disruptive, I think over the last 2 years, that has shown you have to be disruptive. You have to be disruptive in this industry. Otherwise, unfortunately, things will unfold that you don't want to unfold. And whilst the pandemic has hit us in many ways, personally and in business and economies, I think it's really highlighted the fact that you have to look inwardly as well as outwardly, and to be a success, be disruptive to yourself and your business, as well as what you're doing within the industry.
Just to add to what I was just saying on disruption as well, I think I would probably say Astrid and Miyu were disrupted and still are disruptors within the jewelry industry, but also the things that the brands then disrupt with, the rest of the market follows. So it's always about almost like adding to what Edda's saying, like, even if you are a disruptor, keeping that sensing going, you always have to be on the churn of, okay, what's next? What do our customers want next? Because you can be we've seen it with so many cult brands where they are the disruptor and then they lose their bubble bursts and then they fall behind.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to position yourself, and you need to be aware of where you are in the process. So, for a very traditional hardware retailer, we are not going to jump from that to being disrupting the whole industry. And the DIY industry is very traditional, today, the whole industry. And, coming to bricks and mortar, what we are looking at now is the DIY homeowners, where they used to come into our stores and buy a bucket of paint for a good price. Now they want inspiration, they want consultation, they want that feel in their room and that look. And that completely changes the way that we need to craft the experience. And yeah, that might be easy to do in the marketing side of things. We create a story, we get these, people to help us to make all these nice colors, and it's all looking really, really well. Online, yeah, we're doing that really well. And you can book an appointment for consultation for your room and for your house. But then when you come into the store, it's a completely different scenario. It's a completely different scenario and experience. And, being a retailer like us that has so many different products, and we have homeowners and we have professionals, completely different set of needs. So how do we cater to both of them without alienating the other? And how do we make your painting experience amazing, as well as tools and bathroom and gardening? And how do we do it all at the same time? So it's like there's so much changing there that it's where do you begin? And you need to focus on the most important, both for the business and for the customer.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, guys. We've had a couple of audience comments coming in as well. So I'm going to move over to our audience too. One's actually a compliment for you, Dragorad. It's great to hear your passion for one-to-one personalization. So thank you, TRB guests. I don't know who they are, but thank you. And thank you for your thanks to Dragorad. Dragorad, I'm going to come back to you, if I may, to pick up this next question. This person is asking, I'll read it verbatim. Again, it's a TRB guest. They're a shy bunch today. They're not giving us their names. But what is the cost to deploy great, valuable customer experience? And how do you measure, how it drives retention, lifetime value, and even ambassadorship from your customers? There's a big one. How about that?
Well, to be really frank, I will be very blunt. I really have no idea, actually. But to give some answer based on the experience that we currently have is when we're speaking about costs, where is the difficulty? Difficulty is that we're speaking a lot, as also Edda in our previous internal conversation mentioned this, we're speaking a lot about omnichannel, right? But everybody sees it very differently. Probably we're going to touch that again. But the main problem when speaking about costs comes from the same issue, is that whenever we are, for example, when we are deploying our service, and this is not the place to promote it right now, but when we're deploying a live video end-to-end solution to large retailers, trying to solve the problems that I mentioned by not just allowing consultations, but actually creating a very wholesome storytelling experience all over the place, from ads to store in live. The main problem is that everybody's talking about omnichannel, but structure of the businesses, the retailers and brands still is very much divided, separated. We have internal competition between brick and mortar. Let's be honest about it. We still have a very strong competition for resources, from opportunities, from access to disruptive instruments between brick and mortar and online. Often these are completely different P&Ls. And so it's very, very problematic from our point of view, serving a lot of clients, unfortunately, to understand what's the eventual cost, because there's a very poor coordination between these two infrastructures to deal with this. Bottom line probably is that you are measuring how it drives attention, lifetime value, and then we have this ambassadorship in brackets. Probably the best way to understand it, going from understanding that it's a storytelling experience, so you will track great stories, is exactly your dynamics in social segment and social commerce segment. So what is your social media share of voice? What is your uncurated, non-curated content created by the customer in terms of quality, delivering, and what's the quantity per your KPIs of these reactions? That would be probably what we see, at least from our point of view. And this strongly correlates with frequency of using our instrument and with the loyalty and the habit of using our instrument that actually builds loyalty for the last 2 years. We've proved that across many different categories, partly also in DIY. So overall answer is, have no idea. We're still working on that because we are a fairly young technology, live video overall commerce. But there's the only way to understand the costs and understand the effects only after, like in social media marketing, when it appeared, there was no client side of the thing. There was no department for that. There was no managers for that for a long time, and there were a lot of investments there. So once we get to this type of structure on the side of the client that would try to connect and be responsible for connecting experiential retail, offline stores and showrooms with the online as a complementary experience and not just omnichannel experience, then we will have the answer for that, and we'll have the data. Now we don't have it.
Great, thank you for that. Guy, anything to add to that question?
For me, it's in terms of how do you measure that retention and lifetime, and that comes through loyalty for me, and being able to have loyal customers and then gaining insights. So linking back to what Edda said about the sensing and the insights. If you have loyal customers, you're able to reach out to those loyal customers and really find out what that heartbeat is. So I think it's growing that loyal base and then being able to use the data off that loyal base to say, have we got them retained? But also, as there are raving fans, what are those raving fans telling us? So that we can then measure that as well and rectify where we need to rectify.
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to come on to you, Emma, if I may. We have another audience question. It's from anonymous attendee. They're a shy bunch out there today, but thank you for the questions coming in so far. So Emma, if you wouldn't mind picking this one up. What do you think is the location of the future? This person is wondering, is it city centre? Is it shopping centre? Or is it local high street, sort of rich in community? I think I can guess what the answer would be for your brand, but what are your views?
I think, and this applies to our brand as well, like where we're launching location, it depends on what your brand is offering and who your customer is. It almost goes back to what Edda was saying before about listening, of if your brand and the rest of your competitors are all located in a community, in a shopping centre, for example, amazing, that's absolutely where you should be pivoting to, and that's the future of your brand. If it's a local customer, it's a local community, or you're a smaller brand and you want to make sure you keep that small brand aesthetic and not go too commercial like us, we never go in a shopping centre. We always find those we're just around the corner from the main shopping street, and we're as a brand, for example, our ethos is that we want to almost feel like we're a hidden gem or a special secret that you've found and you've discovered. So it really, really depends on your brand and who you are trying to target, because all of those spaces will work for different brands.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah.
Edda, what's your view on this? So, is it shopping centre, city centre, high street, community? What's your view?
It's actually a really good question. And I agree with Emma. It depends on, your brand and what you're offering and the products you're selling. But I think overall, we're going to see around maybe 3 types of formats where you have, the flagship, where you have the best experience and where you get, you get the smell and you get the consultation, you get everything for every different type of product or task that you're trying to solve for, like, for example, in our stores. But then you're going to have on the other end more localized offerings, and whether that is, it's a local assortment because in that area we have older people, let's say, this is what they're doing as a DIY homeowners, and this is what they need, fulfills 80% of their needs. And then we might have an area which is growing, houses are being built, we have families, young children, they need a different type of assortment. So I think we're going to see much more of localized offerings adjusted to the place, and then these flagships which you come for the experience.
Because that changing role of bricks and mortar, just come back to you, Emma, is another thing for you to consider internationally, right, as well, at your brand, because you're going to be going overseas, yeah?
Absolutely. And I mean, like, because the experience side is so part of our brand overall, the way in which we kind of, I think because we're still in that startup scale-up phase as well, we are very almost always listening, always testing, always experimenting to build upon. So the way in which we do that and we're growing our retail footprint globally is through pop-ups and testing and trialing those spaces. So for example, back in 2019, just before the pandemic, we ran 3 really successful pop-ups in the US. And now that the world is settling back down, touch wood, we're launching our first permanent US store. And then we're almost applying that same strategy to our German side of the business, where this spring, we'll be opening pop-ups and testing different areas and spaces within Germany, with the eventual goal of opening a permanent store. So with that, there are so many, especially coming off the pandemic and the unfortunate loss of so many physical retail stores, there's so many great opportunities and offers of getting lower rates and being able to much more negotiating power within the retailers' hands, that I think makes it so much easier to be able to pop up and experiment and be a bit more fluid with your approach. So if you don't quite know where you your brand is best positioned. There are so many opportunities and so many empty retail units everywhere that there is opportunity to test and experiment for low cost, because you can do a pop-up. If you know the right people and you can find the right people, you have the right strategy, you can do a very low cost pop-up and make a return on that pop-up if it's positioned.
Thank you, Emma. Someone's actually asking you a question directly. It's a bit of a pivot away from where we've been, but they want your opinion, and this is a TRB guest again. That's a shy bunch. You can give us your names. We'll be nice to you, I promise. But they'd value your opinion, Emma, in particular on troll beads and what they've done for your business and the type of one-to-one personalization that you and Dragorad have mentioned.
So I had a little quick click on the link that was in that comment, and it looks like the service that they're offering, if I'm correct, is like a online where you can provide your in-store experience online, so like a video calling system. So that's actually something we did during the pandemic, and it's something that's a huge part of our German expansion at the moment. While we don't have that physical retail space, is that all of our customer service teams are able to provide that one-on-one communication over video call. Video calls become, obviously, as we all are here, such a huge part of our lives, and it's almost become part of the customer's natural process, where, you know, 2 years ago, asking a customer to come on video call, there's probably quite a strong reaction to not. Yeah. So I think there, you know, when it's troll beads, I know there are, in the jewelry industry, a lot of brands, especially the ones that don't have physical retail space, their customer service team, they're not only available on the phone or on chat, they're also available for that one-to-one connection. And it really ties into that I think overall desire for human connection with the brands. You know, you're not talking to a robot. The technology exists, but people want that personal experience. So yeah, that what troll beads are doing, you can see it across the entire jewelry industry and probably a lot of other industries too.
Great, thank you for that, and hopefully that's answered your question, whoever asked that. We love getting your questions. So, and actually we've had some anonymous love as well, a great selection of speakers with some very useful insights. How's that? You're getting praise galore, panel, so brilliant work, well done. Dragorad, I'm going to come back to you if I may. Barriers, difficulties, you know, the whole digital transformation piece, store transformation, there's so much transformation banding around. What sort of typical barriers and difficulties do retailers face are you seeing?
Well, I would try answering this, not to go into details again, possibly giving a helpful perspective on any types of difficulties and barriers that are present and risks to that extent of entering digital transformation and rebuilding or building from scratch your omnichannel experience, customer experience, first of all. Let's be very simple. What's going on actually for the last decade or so, and we've seen it in some other areas, not retail, connected, associated. We see a convergence of social media and marketplaces, right? We see social media becoming marketplaces, and we see marketplaces tending to become social media through one-on-one, through broadcasts, and not just video, obviously, a whole lot of different instruments using whole scope of instruments from data, automation processes, all the way to creative formats, personalization, and whatnot. But eventually, it all converges into some future format, and that would refer to what previous questions I might add to what is the store of the future. Store of the future obviously is all over the place. It's any touch point. It's a hyperlink in the article. It's a banner ad. It's direct mail. It's any type of interaction, because there's no reason for customer not to enter the store from any touch point and any format of interaction directly using any media and not going through landing pages, product pages, and browsing. So I think that first barrier is that, based on this, is that an interesting barrier. A problem worth solving is that we have to understand that for a very awkward reason, we really don't have a lot of impulse behavior and impulse purchases like we traditionally did in brick and mortar, impulse approach to creating impulse purchase process. And I think that the shoppable marketing approach, basically that allows direct transition from an ad or a promotional message directly to the purchase experience and transaction with one click, even not entering the direct to customer store marketplace page or whatnot, is one way to tackle this main problem. Is that we are very much acting in a very systemic way, building our funnels and our purchase and repurchase behavior, but we are not actually facilitating emotional, impulsive purchase and relationship to products and brands. And then the second thing, understanding that social media converges with marketplaces, and that any type of social interaction is assuming and will assume some kind of transaction, and vice versa. The problem and the scary thing that points out additionally why we have to focus on unique and ownable customer experience for brands, manufacturer brands, and independent retailers in this picture, dominated by searches, marketplaces, and social media when it comes to the eventual point of convergence of all of the commerces, is the fact that it kind of turns, potentially the risk is that brands, manufacturers, and retailers are in a position of Uber drivers in the first 5 years of developing the Uber market. We are kind of very strong partners and allies with these digital giants because we're newcomers. It's kind of a gig economy, and we can additionally sell using online. Then the next stage, and we're currently at that stage, I would say we're kind of junior partners. Right now, we're using the instruments and the data that is owned and provided by these platforms. Our customer experience is fully created and mediated by these players. And then the eventual point of the gig economy problem is something that happened with transportation services already, with Uber and Uber-like services, is that we're going to become employees, B2B employees of these platforms. And we see over the size of this. We see Amazon with private labels and white labels. We see in social media building independent e-commerce platforms that are snatching the customer experience, the most valuable one. So ending here, I think that the main, getting back to our point of view and what we do from that corner, assuming all of this, I think that the main way to understand where you're going with the customer experience and move that faster with the less risks of your audience, newly obtained audience ending in Amazon or Facebook, is to focus on very simple thought. Instead of using social media and media platforms in general to turn them into the stores, and influencers and ambassadors, micro, nano influencers, to turn them into salespeople, you should think the opposite logic. You should think about how do you turn your store, any store, physical, online, it's complementary, turn it into the social media and into the media platform with all the instruments and data that you have. And first and foremost, how do you turn your salespeople and your sales ecosystem staff into influencers rather than turning influencers into the salespeople, because it's a dead end. It's hyperinflation. It's going to end soon. So I think that would be the main watch out. How do we turn our retail and brand ecosystem into a social, exciting, emotional, connected experience rather than using all of these instruments and platforms that we do not own to turn them to work for our sales.
Thank you, sir. Guy, I'm going to come over to you if I may. That's some background noise there, so I don't know what that was. Some physical stores. I mean, how, if those businesses watching now were you were to share any kind of gem of advice or knowledge with them, how can businesses rethink the role of their physical stores?
So I think it's about truly understanding what their customers want, and really getting under the skin of that, and not being afraid to take opportunities that exist there in the property market that Emma's already spoken about. So just some examples that have pulled to my head. You look at Pret, and their ethos was originally around people coming to their shops. Their ethos now is about bringing their business to the people. And they have truly changed the way that they will run their business. One of the greatest online success stories in Gymshark has a presence around the world. They will open their first store.
I'm reading Spain.
Exactly. So there will be a need and a want for the presence of physical stores, and it's just really understanding what the customer wants from it. In an F&B world, it may be that it's click and collect and self-service, and actually there aren't people on the front counter, but there's people in the kitchen making the greatest product that that customer wants, and that's where the attention needs to be for that business. So it's just really truly understanding what is it that that customer wants and making sure then it's in that physical footprint, be it the experiential community shop that will be the gym shop, be it a smaller footprint store where 3/4 of it's a kitchen, because actually, again, that's what the customer wants, great food served so that they can take it home and eat it. So again, it's just really understanding what the customer wants and being able to play with what the opportunities are presented in the property market at this moment in time.
Great, thanks, Guy. We are coming into the sort of closing 5-10 minutes, so I'm going to ask you all to start thinking about your final thoughts. Before we do that, Edda, I want to just come to you about store managers. So store managers, I was a store manager myself for 10 years, many years ago, and I loved it. I loved being in stores, and I think store managers are complete unsung heroes and often overlooked for the hard work they do. But their role is changing all the time. What are you seeing changing in the role of store managers? And can you tell us anything about your team and how your store managers need to be?
Yeah, I mean, it changes their role massively. I mean, it doesn't happen very quickly, but it needs to happen. And it's one of the things that is changing is that they need to have data-driven capabilities. They need to have data capabilities. They need to be able to read the data, respond to the data, collect the data, and create actionable insights, as has been mentioned before. So rather than just we have these products, we have an inventory of products, let's put it in the best retail space because we need to get rid of it. Is about understanding, okay, who is the customer that's walking into my store? What does he need? And how can I fulfill these needs? And this is a big cultural shift. It's not just the capability thing that you need to get people with, data capable. It's a cultural. We've been doing this for 60 years and we've been doing pretty well. It's not like the house is burning. So this is another thing that we need to be aware of, is that we can't come in and say, Omnichannel, this is the thing, everything you've done is rubbish. We have to get them on board and we have to get that mentality in, and it's a cultural shift. And, in my research, I found that it requires changing, how you reward your managers and your staff. What are we measuring? Because, for example, breaking the silos is you have an e-commerce store, so you might be buying something on one side of the country from the website, but you want to collect it on your way to your summer house. Who gets the sale? Who gets rewarded for that? And this is also a cultural thing. So I think, it comes to the data, learning how to use the data, going from being very product centric to customer centric, asking the right questions. What do my customers need today? It's snowing, put this forward. Or, next week, this is going to be happening. So we need to look at these products. What are they searching for online? Okay, I'm going to have that, the first place when you come into the store, not just, this is my inventory and I need to get rid of it. So it's that type of change and that type of capabilities that we need to develop with our team, and it does take time because culture is there as well.
Thank you for that. And as you can see, I've just been joined by my co-presenter, who's just got back from her walk. This is Scamp, and she does sometimes make an appearance on Retail Bulletin conferences for those of you that have been with us before, but yes, she's just decided that she wants to be involved as well. Thank you for that, Edda. And I think, store managers, for me, I'm a passionate advocate of the role and all that they do for us. Crew, we're going to be getting ready to wrap up. So each of you are going to get 1 minute to wrap up any closing thoughts that you have for our audience. I just want to add this comment that came in from Pradeep. Visual 360, I think, is your company. Connected emotional experience. That's what will drive customers back to stores. So Dragorad, your closing thoughts, please, for a minute. Anything you want to leave with our audience?
I spare your time. So automation, data, and artificial intelligence are three areas which are driving for a decade or so our logic of engineering this new omnichannel experience that's behind it. And Edda elaborated on a lot on challenges connected with how you employ this to build not from the scratch, but to build and rebuild and constantly keep rebuilding your customer experience. What I would want to leave as a final thought is that I believe that we are on the verge of understanding that these are building blocks, and the blueprint is hidden in the approach that we should know already very well. It's about understanding the customer experience and the whole business that you're building as a customer story and an emotional journey and a very personal, intimate experience that is built on an eternal understanding that sales is a form of art, a form of storytelling art with a very concrete and beneficial results for all sides involved. So yeah, I would want to signify that we truly believe that we are on the verge of going into a completely different approach, using the fruits of the technology that we have for the next couple of decades with metaverses, multiverses, and whatnot. We are going to fully understand that the future is live, it's on demand, and it's about sales ecosystem and the people within it at the heart of it, being a true storytellers.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your insight and indeed for your sponsorship today, Dragorad, as well. I really appreciate it. Guy, wrap it up.
So I think for me, our people, our teams, whether that's in physical stores, factories, warehouses, support office, will be the success of omnichannel retail. And therefore, we need to take those people, our teams, along on the journey and talk to them why this journey is important. So it's that engagement behind the scenes so that they can deliver through any customer experience, whether that's virtually, physically, that will be the success of it.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Very succinct and a very beautiful way of wrapping up your time on the panel as well. So thank you. And I'm sure to be in one of your stores very soon. Thank you for taking time out to join us today. Emma, wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so from me, I guess from like a store experience side, it's really the key things that I'd kind of finish off with is like really listening to your customer needs and adding in real life experiential value to what those needs are, and making sure that as brands that we're always adapting and experimenting. I think that's a key word of like, you're not always going to get it right, but testing and trialing is the way forward. And, you know, whether that's technology or services or approaches to selling, making sure that you're using them smart and what's right for your brand, not just because it's the in thing to do. I think is what I'd finish with.
It's a great finish, and good luck to you guys and your continued rollout, and certainly for that international piece, really exciting. But you guys are going through a really exciting time, and it's lovely to see. It's a lovely brand. Thank you for joining us. Edda, you're the final thoughts. No pressure.
Oh my God.
Wrap it up.
It better be good. It better be good.
Yeah, exactly.
I want
to watching.
I want to follow up on what Guy was mentioning, because I fully agree. You have to get everyone aligned behind your vision. And that is, for me, the most important thing, is that you have a vision of where you're going in the future, and then getting that across the whole organization, no matter where you are in the organization. You can be, you know, inventory, you can be warehouse, wherever it is that you are, that you get everyone behind the vision, and then that's going to make the journey so much easier. If you do not have a shared vision, people will go in different directions, or they will not understand why you are on this journey. So it's both, you know, setting the vision and then distributing it and sharing it and talking about it, make it the DNA of your company.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much, Edda. That was a great finish as well. There was big pressure on you there, and you delivered. We have actually reached the end, guys. We've taken a full hour, so just to show how much compelling content we had. Just as we're closing, we've had a question come in saying, what makes a boardroom customer-centric? And I'll answer that one. It's a boardroom that gets out of the boardroom and into their stores and uses their websites and experiences like a consumer and understands the importance of doing that. There is nothing worse for me than a marketing director, for example, picking on that role that never goes to their stores. I just never understand it. So that would be the obvious answer to a customer-centric board. It's a wrap. What a session that was. This will be available very shortly. We'll download the recording and share it on YouTube and LinkedIn. My dog is currently going crazy behind me right now and is about to pull out a very squeaky rubber chicken at any second. So do come back at 3 p.m. and join us for the final session of the day, which is the future leverage of retail omnichannel. But all that remains for me to say is thank you to Dragorad and the sponsorship of Eyezon. Thank you, Guy, Emma, Edda, for your brilliant insights and for taking time out of your super busy diaries. I'm sure you've been great. Thank you very much. And we'll see you back here at 3 o'clock.
Thank you. Bye.